All right, Fire, we are officially live on the morning, March 18th. Good morning, everybody. We got the Pellegrino boys
The
up and
Pimpin'
early this
Greeno.
morning. Welcome in. The Pimpin' Greeno, we were saying if you can't start your day with a nice glass of Pellegrino hitting the back of your throat, you're going to wake up feeling refreshed, hydrated,
Ready.
everything you need to get the day started, ready to get the day going. So, welcome in, Priyama. How we doing today? How's everything going this week?
Fantastic, Bobby. Glad to be back. I fucking love doing this shit because it's a great way to get the juices flowing in the morning. Wake up the fucking broke boys. The gentleman's code. And we came at him on a different day. Now they thought
Yeah, I
Tuesday.
wonder if they
Yeah,
realized it.
yeah. Tuesday's their sleep-in day before the gentleman's code in the morning on Wednesdays. They got to get a little extra rest on Tuesday. No, boom! We came in, smacked him in the head. 8 a.m. Yeah, yeah, ooping, and then
Reverse.
reverse slam on him. And then we got the Pellegrino pumping early for him. Like you said, yeah, if you can't start your day with a bit of Pellegrino, fucking, I mean, just stay poor, I suppose. That's the only other option. Oh,
Yeah,
goodness.
well, I feel like things have been slowing down a little bit in the world department, but then again, when I messaged you last night, I was like, "We got some stuff we could talk about." You hit me with the ceasefire break, the other war, the other the other war. I was like, "Oh, I guess there is some stuff going on." But when you're hyper focused on what you're doing and on the day to day, sometimes the foreign stuff doesn't make it to your phone, but that's all right, because you're working hard, you're doing your stuff on your day to day, which is how it should be. But you also shouldn't understand what's going on, like we talk about all the time. You should have an understanding of some of the crazy stuff that these people are doing out in the world, and this is our time to catch up with each other and catch up with everybody that watches. So anything that you want to talk about off the top of your mind today? And that's another thing too. I think the mornings are a perfect time because we're getting up, we're just waking up, we're getting our news, we're getting our coffee, we're getting our water, and it's a great time to debrief. I believe the mornings are a good time to talk about it because when you're just waking up and the ideas are flowing, it's a good time. Your brain's actually the most active in the morning because it's just trying to get all those neurons firing in the morning. So it's a good time to debrief, good time to talk about this stuff because it's really a good time to conversate in the morning.
Exactly, and I like that word debrief. This is the Taylor's Code debriefing session. You come to the Gentleman's Code for some juice and the debrief. What the fuck's going on in the world right now? And how's that? Are we gonna fucking? Are we getting, bruv? So yeah, and it's funny you said that because that was the same thing I was doing last night. Was going through X, searching up a couple of different things and thinking, all right, what are we gonna watch? What are we gonna talk about? What's the breaking news? And like you said, as soon as I went and looked for it, boom, ceasefire break in Israel. They're bombing Gaza. Then you got fucking. Then you have the trendy why they're sending people to fucking El Salvador, and then people were trying to send the flights back, etc. And I'm thinking only in Pompino's presidency where so much shit has happened in the first 3 months where wars are popping off, gangs are getting flown to El Salvador. You're just, where's the news? What happened this week? I mean, did anything
Yeah, it's a
happen?
light week.
Yeah, it's light. Yeah, it's light. So I suppose the first one that would be good to talk about would be the. Let's start with Trendiaragua, the Venezuelan gang
Yeah.
named terrorist
I
organization.
did see that one video that they released. I think I don't know who released it, the White House or somebody, but they were like putting them on the planes, taking them off the planes once they got there. I don't know if the video you saw was that it was like dark out. It was like kind of rainy, getting them off the airplane and then putting them into the prison.
Yep, yep, that was the one.
So yeah, so that was the one that I saw, and I was like, damn, this is crazy.
Yeah, you've seen the videos of that prison as well, right? In El Salvador.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I mean that. I mean, here's the thing. At the end of the day, it's always sad for somebody to be in prison and basically caged up like an animal. It's never something you
Yeah.
would should make you feel happy, right? It's definitely a bad thing for certainly because these are still human beings. But at the same time, you have to do it, right? Because you can't have sympathy for the people who were terrorizing the native population. You have to have sympathy for the people that are actually law-abiding citizens that deserve to be free, deserve to be able to live free, sovereign lives. So you do have to put these people into prisons. But that prison is off the charts. I mean, they don't have their own bunks, bro. They're literally huddled up together in these big rooms with no blankets, no pillows, no toilet, nothing. 24 hours a day, just boom, stuck in these cages.
And they're tall, right? All the bunk beds are like stacked on top of each other in there. So it's like not just two bunk beds, it's like six or eight stacked up really high to the ceiling. And the ceilings are huge.
Yup. And
So they
then
just fit as many people as they could in there.
one of them rolls over while he's sleeping. He's going down 2 stories, bang, hitting the ground. And yeah, it's off the charts. And they were talking to a guy inside of there, and they asked him what he feels like or what he thinks whenever he's in that prison. How do they keep themselves sane? And he said, "Well, the toughest part about it is they know that they're never getting out of there. It's just they will never leave that prison again. That's just how they're gonna live the rest of their life." And imagine trying to toy with that reality in your mind. Oh wow, this room that I'm in right now with these 200 other men living like a dog. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. It's fucked.
Yeah,
But
that is crazy.
put
That
them
has to
in.
be such a mind game that they do. Yeah, once they get in there, like, okay, now this is your life. You got to navigate this life in this box, which is
Yep.
crazy. A lot of people, a lot of guys actually, maybe this is an American trait. I don't know about other countries, but a lot of guys get addicted to that lifestyle once they get into prison and they can't, they know they're not getting out for a long time. They get, you'll see they do get released, maybe after 20, 25 years and they go right back in because they just love that lifestyle so much. They get so used to it being in there and living that lifestyle. It's crazy. It's a problem. And that's part of the prison, what you do when you go to prison is to rehabilitate and to get better. But sometimes they get caught up in that prison culture where they're like hanging with the guys, playing dice, or out in the yard, and it's that's part of the process. Unfortunately for those guys in El Salvador, they have it rough because they're treated as terrorists now and real problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I see I'm lagging out a little bit, but yeah, it's crazy. I would not want to be in one of those prisons for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that's not even. You can't even do. Yeah. It's just zero. There's nothing for you to do. There's nothing even to get to addicted to. It's just you're fucking sitting in a room doing nothing. And now it's good that they're doing it though. That's the thing. At the end of the day, my point is that well, you
Hmm.
still need to do it
Yeah.
because you have to have sympathy for the people that are getting terrorized by these people. You don't have sympathy for the criminals. It doesn't make sense. As terrible as it is. Now, then they send them on these flights. So we made this deal with El Salvador that they're going to house these terrorists in this prison, which is first of all a great idea because El Salvador already has the prison there. They already know how to run it. They already understand how to clean up the streets and become the crime capital of the world, and then become the safest country in the Western Hemisphere. Then, excuse me, they know what they're doing. Bukele knows what he's doing. They send them in, and then that judge, a district court judge, rules that the flight has to come back because it was illegal that they were sending them to El Salvador. What, bruv? Who is this guy
I've been
ordering?
seeing a lot of memes that like the district judge overturning things, like the judge could just overturn whatever he wants. He's the president now. He can just do whatever. Like, oh, I don't like that. Let's bang, 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 overturn it. It's overruled.
Yeah,
That's not. You can't live that way.
it doesn't make sense. Yeah, some random district court judge in this county or in this district. Oh yeah, by the way, executive order. Oh yeah, by the way, President Trump can't do that.
No.
What? Who? If that's how this country worked, number one, nothing would get done. Two, it's not a democracy because these judges are just going to be doing bam, 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 whatever they want. Bro, that doesn't make any sense. And I saw the argument that they were making from what was the deputy chief of staff? I believe it was the Miller guy.
Yeah, Thomas Miller,
Yeah, Thomas Miller, doggy. That's the first time I
I
saw him.
think. Yeah.
What's that?
I said, yeah, he's good. He's really good. He's always giving press conferences. He's the one that's always in there when Trump's signing executive orders, and he has a good understanding of what they're trying to do. So he's really putting that plan into action, Stephen
Hmm.
Miller.
Yeah, so I liked him and I liked the answer. He decimated this lady on CNN, um, telling her how the law and the Constitution worked. Oh, and then they're also trying to say that this law is I heard the word zombie law that they're using to be able to extract these illegal aliens. Oh, it's too old. It's an old law. Why would they do this? And I saw Tom Homan whenever they asked him about this. He
Tom
goes,
Holland. Yeah.
yeah, he goes, well, the Constitution's older than that law, and we still listen to the Constitution, don't we? Yeah, these are
And he
the
walked away.
yeah.
Mic drop.
Mic drop. He's like, you idiots. It's a law. Why? So it's so funny because if it's if it's a law and it's legal, oh, it's too old of a law. If there's just zero winning. There's just zero winning, which is not an environment that you can operate in. This country can't operate in an environment where everything that someone does is going to be wrong and illegal. It doesn't make sense to operate that way. And so they're obviously trying to do something good for the country. They're trying to extract these gang members. These are gang members from a terrorist organization, Trendy Ottawa. These are the only people that they're sending over to this prison. They're not sending over, your 68-year-old grandmother and 12-year-old kid who came over the border illegally. No, they're sending over terrorists.
Mhm.
And you want to send the flight back and bring them back into the U.S. Why? Just to be difficult, right? I don't understand the mindset behind doing that. Why would you want to do that?
So, question for you. I wonder how many of these prisoners that they're sending back overseas, back to their home countries, were actually already in prison. Because you got to think there's already probably a good amount of people in the prison system that were illegal aliens or kind of fit the description of what they're trying to get out now because they've were violent crime in the past 3 to 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take on that? How many do you think they're just extracting out of prisons, making room in American prisons so that, when American prisoners go to prison, they actually have more room and it's more sustainable for people that are going to prison in America?
That's a great question. I would say there has to be a high enough percentage where it's meaningful. It has to be. I'm not gonna say necessarily more than not. I would say it's probably close to 50-50. Maybe a little bit less than 50-50 are already in
Yeah,
prison and they're just taking them out of the jails and sending them over. And again, that makes
yeah,
sense because why are you gonna
that's what I was
house?
thinking.
Yeah, why are you gonna house these people? They came over here illegally. Get them out. For how many illegal aliens come over across the border over the last 4 or 5 years? It's not possible to treat, house, imprison, feed, healthcare, everything these people without having a huge impact on our spending, the money that the government's spending. So send them over to El
Yeah,
Salvador where they're already doing it. Make a deal. Boom, boom, boom. Art of the deal. And nice little ally, El Salvador. President Bukele's a savage. I fuck with him. So
yeah.
build that relationship. Build that diplomacy, and send over the prisoners. Because if you send them back to Venezuela, this was the point as well. In Venezuela, they were the ones sending them in the first place. They were the one releasing them out of their jails so that they could come to the U.S. and come live here. So you can't send them back there because then they're just going to come right back. So you got to send them somewhere where they can be housed without being on the U.S. dollar or on the taxpayer dollar in the U.S. Okay, that sounds like a good solution to me.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't see the
Yeah, I think
controversy
they're
there.
doing I think they're doing a good job at yeah, I don't either. What I do see is like that's how I see they're doing. So they're going to make room out of the prisons, going to fill up the prisons as much as they could while keeping it that outflux of people going to different countries. I think they're going to sustain that. That's going to be sustainable going forward is getting out the illegal criminals that go to different countries, keeping them out, but then putting people into our prisons. I think is how, would it would work the best from like a supply chain moving people around standpoint because you can't just house people in local jails or local mu municipal buildings just sitting there like these gang members. No, they're gonna have to go to prison first, and you're gonna need specialized areas for them there, and then they're gonna have to be moved somewhere else. But so tell me more about this gang and what are they really known for around the world and what they're doing maybe in the United States if you have any idea because I hear the name all the time and you see the people, see what they look like. Some of these guys are some hardened criminals, some face tats and full body tats, gang initiation stuff. But
Right.
what is it like? What is some of the criminal activity that they do around the world and some what they do in America? Obviously, probably something drug related, some kind of drug
Yeah.
trafficking.
Yeah. So I'm actually gonna look it up because that's a good question. So trend de agua venezolanos. Let's look at this real quick. So let's do main income. What are these guys doing, huh? Let's see. Mm, Okay, here we go. So Tren de Aragua. So probably from Acuarigua or Acuarigua. All right. So Bogota, Colombia. The Tren de Aragua is the Venezuelan gang that President Trump has targeted in his latest wave of deportations formed in a Venezuelan prison, but has branched out to become a multinational crime organization that has pulled off brazen attacks in places ranging from New York City to Santiago, Chile. Tren de
Oh,
Aragua, what's up?
I was just saying, ooh,
Yeah.
all over
So
the map.
so Tren de Aragua, Spanish for the train of Aragua. There you go. Was founded in 2014 in the Tocaron prison in the central Venezuelan state of Aragua. It may have taken its name from a union of railroad workers building a train connection between Caracas and Aragua. Okay. The gang largely controlled the Tocaron prison, where it ran a zoo, sw- where it ran a zoo, swimming pool, disco, restaurant, and bar. From behind bars, its leaders ordered robberies, kidnappings, and murders. Okay, yeah, not bad. They're definitely doing some bad shit. But as Venezuela sank into its worst economic meltdown in history and crime became less lucrative, the Tren de Aragua branched out overseas. It recruited new gang members among the 8 million Venezuelans who had fled the country's economic crisis. Initially, it established criminals cells in neighboring Colombia. Yeah, where it smuggled drugs and people and operated extortion rackets and prostitution rings, right?
Wow.
So clearly, not a fantastic group of individuals, upstanding citizens, right? So I don't see the issue with deporting them. That's what I'm saying.
No.
It's yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean some of the stuff they're accused of doing, and I'm sure they do, is what a lot you see in with the Mexican drug cartels moving people, moving drugs. I'd say the cartels are much older. That said, they were established in 2014 in the Venezuelan prisons. So they're fairly new in their tactics. Looks like they got super lucky to be able to have an open border from 2020 to 2024 because that probably accelerated their operations in the United States and been able to spread about the country pretty easily. But no, I mean, for being fairly new and what we have heard that they've done, they're pretty like well established. I did not think they would have started in 2014. I would have thought that they would have started probably earlier 2000s, had another 10 years to get going. So that's honestly scary there, is that they've only been around for about 10 to 11 years now. But yeah, it sounds like, they have some influence from the Mexican cartels from what, I could hear. That's maybe who they're modeling their enterprise after. But we'll see that I don't think it's going to work out very well for either of them, the gang members, because they're all going to be going back to the prisons. They're going to have to figure out how to thrive or live in a decimated economy down there in Venezuela. They're going to have to, that's the problem. And I said this last week, is that these guys aren't going to be selling fruit stands and they're not going to be building houses or, bringing regional banks to the area. These guys are just hardened criminals. They're not going to benefit the economy in those types of ways to get goods and services into it. So what do you do as a country? How do your people survive when, a good majority of the population is just terrorizing them with all of this stuff and not contributing to the economy in
Hmm.
that way?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
And
tough.
yeah, and you can't operate in a country where that runs rampant. For example, Mexico with the drug cartels, and now you allow the border to be completely open for 4 years. These guys get to do easy business, easy money. In their world, it's easy money because it's prostitution, it's drugs, so it's quick money, it's fast money, it's a lot of money. And then you can bring that to the US without any type of backlash, repercussions. Boom, just flood right over the border. Boom, boom, boom. Set up your enterprises, set up your networks, make your money, smuggle your drugs, do your prostitution. And what happens is now you give them a huge opportunity to bring in money. And just like a normal corporation that would lobby the US government to prevent laws being passed and regulations from being passed that would harm their business because now they have interests, now they have ways to make money. They don't want to stop making that money, which is a big problem with capitalism whenever you get monopolies.
Yep.
That's what's going to happen with these criminal organizations. They're making so much money to the point where, number one, they can influence those policymakers and those politicians. But number two, they're now not going to just go silently into the fucking sunset. Oh, okay, it's over, guys. We were making billions of dollars. Now we can't do it anymore. I guess we'll just have to go figure something else out. No, there's going to be gunfire. There's going to be violence. There's going to be pushback. Most certainly with the Mexican drug cartels because they have enough power and enough weaponry and enough money to actually cause a disturbance. Now, U.S. will fucking wipe them off the face of the planet, certainly. But there's going to be life lost, right? Which is unfortunate. And it's a much bigger problem now than what it would have had to have been if we hadn't just allowed these people to pour through the fucking border, right?
Yep. Yeah, so I think it all comes back to, what was one of the first things Trump did when he got into office? One, he said we want to acquire Greenland, we want to acquire Canada through economic force, and also the mass deportation effort that's going on currently. This is what he ran on. He didn't run on Canada and Greenland as much. That was kind of like as soon as he got in, he started doing that. And why I think he's starting to do that is because he wants to form something that kind of looks like the European Union, the American Union, maybe we could call it, because he wants to take the whole Western Hemisphere and turn it into that union where free trade, it's already in discussions with Canada. Listen, it's reciprocal taxes. Whatever you tax us, we're going to tax you. If we could start to eliminate those barriers to entry of economies, like because Canada can't compete with us economically in a fair trade. Our buyers are worth much more than Canadian buyers could come into the American market and buy things. So I think what they're laying down the foundation for with the Mexico and Canada tariffs would be the North American like free trade union, so that could offer stability in different ways than a military power going in and fighting the cartels on the ground or fighting the fentanyl problem on the Canadian border. So ideally, all this trickles down into Central America and maybe one day South America. I think South America is a little bit different. It's kind of on its own peninsula out there. But at least North America, the North American, trade union, it's going to alleviate some of the economic problems that you see in Mexico and even in Canada, lagging behind the American economy and being able to have all that free trade flow through the North America could really set the countries up that live there to have less violence, to have easier access to economic trade, and then hopefully that lowers the crime levels, that brings in good people, that doesn't bring in bad people. And I think that's the whole trend that we're seeing here. So getting rid of the bad people and then merging economies, merging in good ideas and good people is what they're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's tough when you have all these people here that are doing those things badly and they're locking up their what's the word? Filling up the prisons. Have to get them out. And I think the same could go with South America. You could see something similar with countries down there, Guatemala, down there, Panama, Colombia, Venezuela, El Salvador, Brazil, even Brazil's Berkshire. believe, right? So
Yeah, Burks, they got to get
um,
their ass out
they're
of
a little
there.
bit different. So that's a whole nother story. But I think, that's what you're starting to see is these financial alliances, and that's what they're trying to do. Because who's America's financial ally? The European Union. That's what Trump's saying. The European Union takes advantage of us. Canada takes advantage of us. Mexico takes advantage, and especially South America takes advantage of us being here. So it's about time that we start opening up those free trade routes, which will hopefully open up the economies of these lesser countries that have lesser economies and lesser, stability and
Hmm.
have more gang violence. So hopefully it could bring stability that way.
Hmm. You know what else is bringing fucking stability? The price of eggs dropping like a mother nuking bear market for eggs after this 4 year bull run. Eggs was in a 4 year bull. If you guys would have just bought eggs and held, you guys would have been fucking rich from the last administration. Now the price of eggs is nuking, dropping. Did you see the egg prices?
Like in
Hilarious.
half,
In half.
50% in like 2 weeks.
Let me fucking. I'm gonna pull it up right now. What? Let's look at it. What was the price of eggs in December of 2024? Let's check this shit out. You want to see something fucking funny? Let's actually pull the data. Right? We're not gonna pull this out of our ass. We're gonna pull the data straight from Goog, and Goog's gonna give us a leftist answer too. Look at that. Look, see, I knew they'd give us a bad answer, but look. So in December of 2024, the average price of a dozen grade A large eggs in the US was $4.15. Increase from January 2024, which the price was up from $2.15. So in a year, it doubled. And then now, what is the price of eggs? What it was?
Wow.
Yeah. What is the price of eggs now? Let's look. What is the average price of eggs? Bomba Cloud. What is that? Eggs prices are falling with a dozen now less than. Let's see. These are different numbers. Hold on.
I wonder
Egg.
how, like, what brand they're looking at, or maybe it's just like the supplier, how much they're selling the eggs for.
Here it is. $2.50 now. From up down from $4.15. Isn't that incredible? Oh, they even got a graph for it. That's
Oh.
hilarious. We got to do some TA on this eggs market. So,
Hopefully,
anyways,
we don't bottom anytime soon on that.
oh yeah, yeah, we don't want to. We want that to be a fucking black hole just on eggs. So, isn't that interesting, right? I thought tariffs was going to increase inflation. I thought all these things were going to make the middle class more expensive. Blah 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 blah. Which I also made the point the other day. If you're looking at the price of eggs, bruv, you need to join the Taylor's Code and figure out how to make some fucking money. Because if you're worried about the price of eggs, dude, you got bigger problems than inflation. If you're worried if eggs cost $4 instead of $2, you got bigger problems than inflation, bro. Eggs are
That's true.
fucking free. They're free. But for you fucking savages that are out here saying, it's gonna cause inflation. Clearly not.
That is, every time I see someone fighting on Twitter now or X with about eggs, you're gonna instantly assume they're broke because
Yeah.
that's the only thing. That's the only thing you're gonna be fighting about is eggs, the cheapest fresh produce we have.
Yep.
Brokey.
Agree 1000%. Agree 1000%. If you talk to me about the price of fucking milk, I know your bank account balance is -20. Your overdraft fees are coming in right now. you what? The price of milk? I don't know what milk costs. You know why? Because I don't fucking check. I just buy it. Like it's so funny, dude. The yeah, just the arguments. I understand. I understand the argument. It's for the middle class, the American who needs to be able to afford groceries on his paycheck. To completely understand it. So I do understand why it's important. But on an individual basis, gentlemen, don't talk to me about the fucking price of eggs. Okay? How about you get your ass into the Taylor's Code and start learning how to make some money, start investing into assets so that you don't have to worry about whether or not eggs are $4 or $2. $2
Well,
savings.
it's a good analogy with the tariffs because what are the tariffs? 25% tariffs on produce. What's 25% of 2.99? That's what, 30 cents?
Right.
About? No, 60 cents. So your eggs are 360 as opposed to 2.99 and you're bitching about that.
Yep.
It is what it is. You're in the midst of a trade war essentially. So relax. Let your farmers from Iowa and Idaho get their eggs to the East Coast and you'll be all right. You'll survive.
And you know why it's better? Because now the American people are enriching themselves. Now your fellow brother and sister who lives in the same country
Yep.
as you is actually making money, is actually building their business, which is inherently fantastic for the rest of the nation. So you worried about an extra 60 cents on your fucking eggs, kick rocks, which is coming down anyways. But the tariffs, you know what 25% tariffs on billions of dollars of trade is? 25% on billions of dollars of trade is enriching the treasury, enriching your country, while you on an individual basis might only pay an extra 60 cents at the well, that's not even true. You don't even pay more because you just get American eggs.
Yeah,
You
you
just get
might
American.
not.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You just buy the American version where there are no tariffs. So that was the other thing with tariffs too that makes me laugh. People saying everything's gonna get more expensive. No. No, not everything does not get more expensive. The whole point is to make foreign products more expensive and American based products stay the same. So, guess what? It incentivizes the consumer to purchase the American goods, which is good for our country. So, no, not everything goes up, only foreign goods. And so, what happens whenever you increase the price of foreign goods? All of a sudden, you get all these countries and all these companies who come to the United States and have a press conference with Pompeo, and Pompeo's asking them for $1 trillion investment. And then they're talking about their $1 trillion investment. And Pompeo goes, I'd bump it up to 2 trillion, huh? Why not? Yeah, just 2 trillion, right? Yeah, we'll do 2 trillion. Pumping up their fucking investment while they're live on the conference press room. That's what happens. You bring industry back to the country because they're not going to lose the American marketplace. They're not going to lose the American consumers. So, what's the only option they really have? Either pay the fucking tariffs and enrich the treasury, or bring the business back to the US, employ the people of the United States. Either way, win-win situation. You can't lose.
That's where the real money is. It's in the manufacturing. Why do you think China is blowing us out of the water in economic data over the past 20 years? It's because their manufacturing has skyrocketed. Everything you get off the internet, for most part, most drop shippers, you know, my e-commerce people will know this. Everything you want that's a decently good product and you want it in bulk, it's coming from China. There's
Mm-hmm.
not that many manufacturers in the US that make this stuff. They're out there and you're going to pay more because they're American and because they're trying to make their profits reach. So that is the key. And one of the great examples that Trump talks about, I don't know if you heard him say this, is the furniture business in North Carolina. He said the furniture business out of North and South Carolina used to be booming. They'd have ships pull up to the beach, loading up furniture, sofas, rugs, chairs, tables, everything, loading them up, right? Enriching the people of North Carolina, South Carolina. What happened? All of those jobs went away. All of that industry went away pretty much, and he's trying to bring that industry back so that people start buying our furniture, our couches, instead of us buying from other countries, just importing all these different couches. We can make them here. It's not that difficult to make a couch, add a little cushion, add the coverings to it. People can do it here. It's just that we don't, and that's what we talked about. We're just not doing it. So we need to build those plants again, build those warehouses to store that kind of stuff. And industries like that could come back alive. If you're somebody who's 20 some years old, you could buy a couple couches, get a couple people to make couches for you, and you could build like a booming business in today's day and age. But it's just we went away with that. That's part of the education system, telling kids that they got to go to school for all these liberal arts or these high tech jobs, these high finance jobs that not everybody could get. Not everybody could be in high finance. Not everybody can be in high tech as an engineer, right? Not
Exactly.
everybody could be in communications at school. So people have moved away from these trades and these job opportunities. So they go overseas, and that's the problem right now they're trying to fix.
And so, well, all right, because now I'm thinking about it because we're talking about overseas and it popped up in my head. So how about the ceasefire break in Israel last night? They launched what airstrikes, missiles at Hamas, the Gaza people. What's your take on that? Well, first of all, why do you think
Yeah,
they did it? And then, yeah. What do you think?
I think it has something to do with the operations that they're doing with the Houthis. I believe that's how you pronounce it, the Houthis, in Yemen. So I believe that there were some American ships trying to get through the Red Sea, and the people of Yemen, or the terrorists in Yemen, whoever they are, the Houthis, I think is how you say it, they were blocking American ships from getting in and out. So I think this also has to do with Israel. I think, with Hamas being there, I don't know what is left of Gaza for them to still need to bomb. Maybe there's still a few headquarters or people. I think it's about over, honestly, in my opinion. I'm getting sick of like even hearing about it. Like, just figure it out, negotiate peace. It's already leveled. Like, if you see videos of Gaza, it's completely leveled. Like, you don't need to bomb it anymore. Be strategic about keeping people safe. Keep Americans safe if they're even there in Israel. But I think it has something to do with American operations in the Red Sea with the Houthis,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it has to be connected in some way. That's what I was thinking about the first thing I saw it. But I don't, and also I just don't see why they still need to keep bombing them, as it's completely leveled at this point. And find a different way to secure the area.
Yeah, I agree. So that was my takeaway too. Was what is it that we still need to? Well, it's not our war. It shouldn't be our war, but apparently we are allies to Israel, and I'm not sure
Hmm.
exactly why, because ally means you do something for us and we do something for you, but it seems like we just do something for them. I'm not exactly sure what Israel does for us and why we need to be involved with Israel and them bombing the shit out of fucking Gaza. So, this is something where I definitely stray away from, I suppose, the traditional, Republican agenda right now, which is, oh yeah, Israel, 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 Israel. I'm not. I'm just anti-war. So for me, it doesn't have to do anything with
Yeah.
Israel. It doesn't have anything to do with Ukraine and Russia. There's no teams. There's no sides for me. It has nothing to do with who do I prefer, who's in the right, who's in the wrong. In every war in human history, every single side, whether they've lost or won, thought they were in the right, and that's why they chose to fight that war. Nobody's willing to die for something that they don't believe they're right about. So everybody thinks they're right. Everybody has their own reason.
Mm.
Everybody has their own perspective. There's no true, in a black and white sense, good guys and bad guys. Everybody thinks they're doing the right thing. So there's no point in even taking sides. It's not about taking sides. It's about the fact that there shouldn't be the mass murdering of innocent civilians, which is what's taking place in Israel and Gaza. So apparently the rationale was that Israel needed their hostages back from Hamas. Hamas was not releasing their hostages, so they said, boom, all right, we'll start striking you guys again. Okay. Now I don't know all the details about this situation, etc. Why they're so upset about it, why they decided to start bombing again because they didn't get the hostages back, etc. Who knows? But my point is, but why are we as a nation backing this for Israel? That's my question. Like, what are we? Why are we backing Israel in
Yeah.
this? I don't understand. Like, what is it? Why?
So
Why?
I think it has a lot to do. Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with one, the APAC government funding. So a lot of politicians get donations through APAC, and that's the Israel fund, pretty much. That's Israel's direct reach into American politics for donations and things like that. So people have a vested interest to just like meeting their shareholders, that's what their shareholders want. This is the people that are donating to them, people that are helping them get elected. Their interest are their interest at one point. So that has a big influence on it, I believe. But also, this is just a multi-decade issue that has been going on between them, and that we've been there from the start. So it's like we have a vested interest to just, keep that interest alive. And something that I heard it's that once you see one war start to ramp down, so you're going to see Russia, Ukraine start to ramp down. The military industrial complex is still going to want to go. They're still going to be pumping out their new technology. They're still going to be pumping out their weapons. They're just moving. This is what they do. Once one war ends, they're going to just fill in the void with the next one. And that's, I think, what's unfortunately happening now over there is that they see an opportunity that, okay, well, this is, the Houthis are blocking our ships, so we're gonna inject some more naval into the Red Sea, into the Mediterranean, and having some conflicts with Yemen. We're also gonna help Israel over there, and we're going to do this, and we're gonna. So I think it's just a circulation of money, one from Israel politicians and American politicians working together for their vested interest of those people. And I believe that once one war ramps down, one's going to ramp up, and the fighting continues.
And that's what upsets me, because I came to that same conclusion as well, as just what you said. Oh wow! As soon as it looks like the Ukrainian-Russian war is going to end, bang, ceasefire's over in Israel and Gaza. So it should be an end to all wars and the end of U.S. funding of these wars. Now, I also see the other side of it, because it is ignorant to think that the U.S. can just completely retreat out of all aspects and all regions of the world and just expect to retain supremacy over the world in terms of our dominance economically,
Yeah.
politically, etc. Yeah, I understand that you do have to have influence across all regions to be able to maintain your space as the superpower of the world. That does make sense. I do get that. So these people aren't stupid that are trying to do these things. But on the other side, I don't believe there needs to be a permanent funding of wars that don't need to be ours, because what's it matter to fund these wars permanently, continue to become permanently indebted to the rest of the world, to permanently indebted to China, if what that means eventually is the collapse of the US dollar, the collapse of our only export in America, the only resource that America has that we actually profit off of is the US dollar. So if that collapses and we're no longer the world reserve currency, it's over. There is no nation, there is no superpower, it's done. So why bankrupt
Well,
ourselves? Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say here's one thing that they say about the U.S. dollar isn't backed by anything, but the U.S. dollar is backed by one thing, and I've said it before on stream. It's backed by the U.S. military. That's like pretty much what the U.S. dollar is backed by. So that is the vested interest of okay, BRICS is coming along, and they want to bring in new countries into the Middle East. Okay, well, we're going to cause some uh, instability in your region. So you guys can't join BRICS because you're not even rich enough because they won't allow you in. Also, just like you said, projecting power. It's like, how could we project power? It's like, okay, well, we could take our naval equipment over there, shoot down some boats that won't let us come in. Okay, okay. Now we're able to trade with you guys because we got our boats in. So I think it's different things like that. And the projecting power is key because one, I think we are overstretched across the globe. Look at China. We said last week China hasn't fought a war in over 40 years. But also, China's economy doesn't run as much off of the military stuff as ours does. Our military contracting and our military companies are state of the art, like some of the biggest companies in the world. So those companies are in cahoots, I guarantee, with the CIA. And what does the CIA have done over the whole globe is they
Mm-hmm.
cause instability and they cause havoc in these countries to take take leaders out, put new leaders in, cause some wars, cause some military battles or whatever you want to call it, some skirmishes over across the globe over there. So there's no doubt in my mind that the CIA is pulling some strings. Okay, we're going to fight here. We're going to cause a little havoc here. We're going to cause a little havoc in Ukraine. Put in a new president. We'll see what Russia does. Antagonize them a little bit. So it's all these behind the scenes people pulling strings and trying to get people to act up, which ultimately ends up having to rely on military. That's how I see it. I think, there's definitely some people behind the scenes that do this stuff, but it's their interest to go in there with some military, go in there and clean up Gaza with, their company and build. So it's a big chessboard.
Yeah, it's all fucking money moving around, shifting around left and right, just for people to continue to profit. I just looked up this chart because I'd seen it before. So the each empire was an empire, the dominant empire, because they held the world reserve currency, right? So let me. No, I won't share the screen, but I'll just go through. So the Portuguese Empire, which was a massive one. People don't really talk about this one a lot. A lot of Portuguese colonies. I mean, look, Brazil in South America, a lot of them across the world. So for 80 years,
Yep.
Portugal held the world reserve currency. Okay, and it was for 80 years. Next major superpower was Spain from about 1530 to about 1640. They held it for 110 years. Netherlands, next major empire, 80 years they held the world reserve currency. Okay. Next empire, France, 95 years from 1720 to 1815. Britain held their world reserve currency status for 105 years. And then the US started 79 years ago. So the US has been the world reserve currency for 79 years. The longest
Mm.
that an empire has ever held it was 110 by Spain. So when I look at that chart and I say, all right, well, if it's confluent with what has happened in the past, we're getting close to the end. And
Yep.
you're starting to see signs of it because of how the US, because that's how the US runs, is literally off of debt. It's all just debt, debt, debt. It's just all debt. And then they refinance their debt and then print more money and then refinance their debt to China and to everybody. It's just a whole fucking scam. So you can see how these things have collapsed over time, and the U.S. is getting to a point where over the next 10 to 15 years, if things don't get fixed quickly, like with what they're doing with Doge and trying to create balance the budget, the world reserve currency will not
Yep.
be the U.S. dollar indefinitely. There's nothing saying that that has to be the case. Every other empire that came before us has stopped after at the most 110 years. So we're close.
Yeah.
And it's showing because ever since the 2008 financial crisis, countries like China, Russia, countries that we impose sanctions on, funny enough, thinking that by them not having to use the US dollar, that they're going to just not trade anymore. Like Russia, sanctions on Russia. No, all you're doing is forcing them to become creative on how to not use the US dollar. And guess what they do? They trade in gold, they trade in Bitcoin, they trade in fucking other currencies. BRICS comes about. So
Yep.
if you give these nations an opportunity to start to move away from the US dollar as the world reserve currency, now the US no longer has that ability to apply pressure to these nations. And then, well, if the US dollar doesn't mean anything anymore, then the US is fucked. That's the only thing we have. So we got to fix it,
Yep.
fix it quickly.
Yeah, it's true. And one thing that you see that this administration is doing and making a huge emphasis on, and they say it, it's actually Elon said it in an interview with Ted Cruz. I saw a quick clip. I wanted to watch that full clip, but they're saying that it's a national security. For national security, they have to boost the production of AI and these chips that can run AI because right now they all come from Taiwan. So if China overtakes Taiwan and we're cut off from those chips that are able to make AI and to run these supercomputers and run crypto, algorithms and blockchains, we're going to get left behind. So it's to our national security that these types of companies come and invest in America so that when it, the financial markets do take that turn to the other side, like, as we move away from the US dollar or whatever it is, because it is going to come in the next 50 to 100 years. This paper money is just going to be obsolete. It's not going to make sense. So how are we going to set ourselves apart in the next 20 years to 10 years even? It's moving so rapidly that how are we going to set ourselves apart from these other countries to be able to do that? Well, it's one, we have to manufacture those chips in America. That's like national security. If China takes Taiwan, we're cut off. We're done. Zip. We're not going to get those chips anymore unless we buy them probably for a huge premium from China. They're going to just, raise the prices to the roof. It's going to be really expensive, hard to get. So that is a key moving forward, like you said. So that's like technology proofing ourselves. Doesn't solve the problem of spending or waste, fraud, and abuse. It doesn't solve that problem, but the chips and the AI can solve the future problems of strategic planning. Okay, like okay, our AI bots are doing this. China's it's in my opinion too. I really think it is going to be a two-man race with AI and crypto. It's U.S. and China for sure. Because European Union they have some wacky laws going on. Some countries are getting rid of it. You saw like Germany last summer sell all their Bitcoin worth like probably hundreds of billions of dollars now. They sold it for like hundreds of millions of dollars or something.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's just my take on the future proofing to making sure that doesn't happen. The US dollar becomes obsolete. I think it's going to be a lot of investing in AI. It's going to be a lot of investing in crypto and those areas to, future proof the US dollar and the US economy in some way.
I agree. That's a good point that you said with crypto is yeah, at some point the US dollar will become obsolete. So what's the how do we maintain the world reserve currency status when transitioning to a different currency? So they're gonna have to create some type of stable coin or what they started doing with the strategic Bitcoin reserve, which is a start, at least have some type of store of value for the country that we can use to be able to pay off debts, to use to be able to pay off. You got to have these things because you can't expect the rest of the world to just be complacent and allow you to continue to dominate in all realms for the rest of human time. That's just not what happens. Every single empire has fallen at some point. So, are we going to do anything different about it? Are we going to allow it to fall and collapse and somebody else take over like China? Or are we going to continue to press forward, continue to innovate, continue to be strategically sound, be able to think in generations as opposed to 2, 3 years from now, one election from now? Can we think generationally? Can we agree on enough things to be able to set ourselves up for our future generations to continue to dominate on the world stage? Or are we going to just allow ourselves to disintegrate over the next 20 to 30 years? It's the only two options that we have. Because we're getting to the point of it's either make or break at this point. We're starting to teeter towards. I mean, we have been degrading in all metrics. Education being a very important one. Economy, manufacturing. These things are degrading, right? Yeah, we're still the superpower, but it is going down. We're no longer growing, and if you're not growing, you're dying. It's simple business. Every business owner understands that. If you're not growing, you're dying. We're not growing right now. So we got to fix that. It needs to be fixed quickly. That's why I like Pompino and the way he's running things, because he understands that for a nation to be able to continue to have power, you need to continue to become profitable. This is why the Saudi countries who got rich off of oil all of a sudden gain so much power and so much wealth is because they have well, I just said because they have wealth. The gentleman from Qatar who brokers these deals between these major nations in conflicts. The reason Qatar has power, the reason Qatar matters, this tiny country with a couple million citizens native to that country, the reason they matter at all is because of how rich they are. They're rich. So you have to stay rich, wealthy as a nation. That's how you continue to have influence. Look at Dubai. Why do they matter? Because they're rich. Like, these things matter. You got to maintain your wealth.
Mhm. Yeah, and you need to be able to reinvest your wealth, which is a problem that we've been having in America, is that our rich people just don't really build. I mean, they do, but it doesn't it doesn't directly affect a lot of economies. The US is so big and so vast that yeah, someone might invest in one community, but it's such a tiny place on the scale of the United States being so big. And usually when they invest in the same kind of places. They invest in big cities. They want to put a skyscraper up. They want to put residential housing, or they want to put apartment buildings up. Like that's all great. Like all the investments from that aspect is great, but you have to find ways that go beyond that, fixing roads, and that's the government's job is to fix roads and to find affordable housing for people that can't afford housing and cleaning up different areas, keeping parks nice. It's all about reinvesting back into the country, and that's America first, and that's what I like about Pompino is what he's been doing is reinvesting back into America first to make sure that we do have that sustained success and making sure things look good. Like you said, we want to compete with the Dubais on the glitz and the glamour and the new buildings. well, we're at a disadvantage because here's their rules book of how they could build, right? Like, you got to follow these, and then here's ours, right? It's ours is this big. This is how many rules we have to follow while we're building. So we're at a disadvantage from that perspective because you could just call the king or the prince of, Dubai, whoever it is, and he could get stuff done quickly with his money.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the same here in America. The rich people like Elon Musk, he's trying to get things done now in the government, or Jeff Bezos, but they have to go, but they have so many hoops to be able to build something of that caliber of the Burj Khalifa, So
Mm-hmm.
it takes a lot more effort here in America to make things to reinvest into things and make them nicer. Other
Mm-hmm.
parts of the areas or of other parts of the world, they don't have that. I would call it a handicap. They don't have the handicap of being able to, follow a huge rule book, so they could just go at it.
Mm-hmm. There needs to be an architectural renaissance in the US. That's just one of the easiest indicators to me as to how prosperous a nation is well, are they developing new things? Are their societies advancing? Is their technology advancing? You look at the airports in the US, there's nothing spectacular about them. They're dirty, they're not run well. Just the overall sense of pride and beauty for our nation's buildings and infrastructure is just not there anymore. It doesn't exist. But then you go to these other developing nations and you see what they have and how they upkeep and how they invest into these things. The Middle East, these countries, some of these countries have the most fantastic infrastructures. Places in China as well in their major cities, Japan in their major cities. The US is old. The cities are old and there's no new innovation. There's no new construction taking place. These buildings need to be now. I understand too because it costs money to redo these buildings and people own these buildings. But it goes back to the wealth. It goes back to this absurd government spending into things that mean absolutely fucking nothing. Think about this. Think about this. How amazing would this be? Instead of sending $1 billion overseas to Africa for shit that doesn't even exist or shit that does not need to happen, right? If Africa is the most homophobic continent in the world. Don't be sending no transgender shit over there, okay? They don't care, all right? Take that $1 billion and imagine if they just took all that money, they just started investing it right into the US. You know what? Even though this building's been here for 50 years, the US government's going to break it down. We're just going to build another beautiful skyscraper. You know what? We're going to build this beautiful stadium. And you know what? Let's go ahead and build this over here. Like, just start pouring that money
Hmm.
back into building up our cities and making it attractive for people to come visit again. They got to upgrade. They got to
It's
upgrade.
it's more too about empowering the people. Most people that would love to invest in real estate, our generation and even older than us, probably people from 18 to let's say 50. Once you get past 50, you're like, oh, this is my house, whatever. That group of people, if you empower them and you enrich them, they're going to do all the work for you. They're going to make the country look beautiful. They're going to buy houses. They're going to upgrade them. They're going to buy residential retail shopping. They're going to upgrade them and then they're going to lease them out and they're going to buy these buildings. So if you enrich your own people and you incentivize them to make more money, incentivize them to buy and build, you give them tax credits and give them less capital gains taxes, these types of incentives that will make them more money and make the country nicer in terms of real estate development. That's great. That's what we want. We need to incentivize that stuff, make it easy to build too, not have to go through 6 months of permitting before you even get a shovel in the ground. That's a problem
Mm-hmm.
they have in California. And that's why it's so hard to rebuild these fires that went through there is because the permitting is going to take them years and years, especially on the ocean, because they have so many laws of what you could do with the ocean. So we need to retract in terms of regulatory laws and really open up the financial incentives, especially for commercial real estate companies. There's companies out there that have funds just to invest in real estate. If you start enriching those companies and you take that $1 billion for Sesame Street in the Middle East and you give it to a couple real estate companies inside the US that you know it's going to develop very nicely, home builders. There's ways to do these things. We just have to get the budget balance first and then allocate resources properly.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be incredibly difficult. But these are the things that are going on. That's the debriefing, gentlemen. The gentleman's code debrief.
Yeah.
So, any last couple of things you want to jump on? I mean, that's pretty much the mass of everything.
Yeah, that's all I had. That's all I had. Good conversation. We'll definitely we'll plan and we'll watch a video next week. We'll do a podcast or something. We'll catch the gentleman up on some of the podcasts. But no, that's all I had. Other than that, I mean, like Priamo said, if you're worried about the price of eggs, you need to get inside the Taylor's Code. You need to start learning about not even, taking action yet, just learning about other ways to make money. Because if you're worried about the price of eggs and you're worried about milk, you got to get your mindset shifted. You have to understand how money has to come into it. It's a total mindset. This is a part of being the ultimate professional, is that you need to switch your mindset to being a consumer to a producer and start producing things that are going to make money, whether that's a service business, selling your skills online, whether that's selling a product online through e-commerce, and I can help you with that, whether that's investing money you have into financial markets for the long run, for setting yourself up for success in 20 years, selling all your Bitcoin, selling all your Pepe, whatever you're buying and selling,
Hmm.
whether that's getting your fitness in top-notch shape, making sure that your body is right, making sure your mind's right. It's all part of being an ultimate professional and part of being successful in this world. And that's what we're trying to teach. That's what we're all trying to network and communicate inside the Taylor's Code. So go in there, check out the links in our descriptions from this video. It'll take you to our landing pages where you could buy your access to the community. And you guys could connect with us on the daily, message us. We have people that were messaging in there all day.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, the only way to succeed is with a team. That's just the reality of life. Okay. Whether you decide this is going to be the team for you or not is up to you, but you need to be a part of a team. Everything that Bobby just said, I echo, and you need to join as quickly as humanly possible because as this world continues to move faster, as the economies continue to move faster, information continues to move faster, if you don't do anything to asphyxiate yourself with winners, with people who understand what's going on, people who are paying attention to what's going on, people who are working every single fucking day to be able to educate ourselves to continue to make more and more money, then you're on the wrong team. These are the people who are going to win. Bobby, myself, Logan, the gentleman inside the Taylor's Code, we're going to win because we've always been winners and we're going to continue to try to win. If you're not a part of an organization like that, you can't expect to get yourself out of the situation that you're in. You're never going to get out of debt. You're never going to get out of your current income or your job or that lifestyle. You're never going to live anything more special than the average human lifestyle. So join the organization in the first month, whether you go to Bobby's, you're going through Bobby's Page of Mind. When you enroll in the network, use code TC444. Okay, Taylor's code
Yep.
TC444. It's going to be $40 off of your first month until the end of March, right? Oh, $40 off. Oh my goodness. Think about how many eggs you guys can fucking buy with $40 off. Save that 40. Go buy your eggs because I know you need to have your scrambled eggs in the morning. It's the first time in years that you've been able to have your scrambled eggs again. Save that 40, go eat your fucking eggs, and then message us in the Discord and start making some fucking money. All right. Outside of that, gentlemen, that's all I have.
All
Okay,
right.
Bobby.
We'll see you guys next week.
All right. Let me do a little Mr. Producer. Come on, Naib. Where's Bum Nesh been? Speaking of Bum Nesh.
Yeah. Where's